Hi, I'm Luann Worley with Rockin Book Reviews, and I'm pleased to be here today with Gareth Worthington, and he is the author of Children of the Fifth Son. You were born in the UK. Tell us a few things about a couple of childhood memories that you remember.
So I grew up in a pretty rough town, a naval town called Plymouth in the UK. So my childhood was interesting, let's put it that way. But I guess one person had a really strong effect on my life, and her name was Mrs. Gray, and she was a teacher at my primary school. And when all the other kids were kind of learning, I guess, basic kind of things, she saw in me that I was really into science. And at 9 years old, she was teaching me nuclear physics. And she got me books on the Chernobyl incident, and I would sit with her for hours just learning all about nuclear fission and electrons and protons and all these things. At 9, that's kind of how I kind of got started, really, and from there, really, my scientific career kind of took off to what it is today.
Wow, that is exciting. Have you always had such a constant thirst for knowledge?
Yes, I would say so. From that point onwards, I consumed anything I could find, particularly scientific. But I'm really interested in astrology and astronomy and ancient history, physics, anything I can get my hands on. To be honest with you, it's I never stop. You're always learning.
That's wonderful. I feel the same way. Which countries have you lived in?
Wow. So I have lived in, let me get this right, the USA, the Netherlands, Switzerland, Portugal, and Singapore. Actually lived in, and I work all over the world in my job role. So I travel at least once a month to somewhere in the world.
How many languages do you speak?
I would say 2 and lots of little bits. So obviously English, and my second language is German, although I really should practice it more. And then I speak a bit of Romanian, Singlish, which is what's spoken in Singapore. And at the moment, I'm also picking up a little bit of Russian, because my wife's family are Russian by descendants, and we're going there soon. So I'm trying to learn.
That's fantastic. Which countries have the most fascination for you?
For me, it's the ones that are still hanging on to the traditions and some of the old ways of doing things. As I mentioned, I'm really into ancient history. So the Western world is great, and visiting the cities has been fantastic, but they often tend to meld into one. I tend to find that you go to the cities and it's the same stores on the same streets. You know, there's an H&M or a Starbucks in every corner. And so I like to go to the countries and feel that there's some of the old ways still there. And I think the further you move east, that happens. So Eastern Europe, Bulgaria, Romania, the Czech Republic, those places still have quite a feel of the old world with them. I really like that. And then the further you move east, the stronger that becomes. So, I worked in Asia for quite a while. The Philippines is really a really interesting place. Taiwan, Indonesia, they hang on a lot to old traditions, and that's fascinating for me. Cambodia, that's fantastic.
So you have a lot of favorites.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. That's kind of like asking me what is my favorite author. I said, how big a list do you want? Okay. You hold a PhD in comparative endocrinology.
Yeah.
Explain to us in layman terms what that is.
So endocrinology is just a really fancy word for hormone systems. And comparative means that I was looking at different species and comparing what those hormone systems did in each species, because there's things, my particular PhD was looking at a hormone that exists in a type of fish that we don't know what it does in humans. So it exists in humans and it's involved in cancer in some ways, but we're not really sure what the evolutionary process was from it being there to in us. And so my PhD was all about understanding what that hormone did.
That's interesting. Okay. And you currently educate world doctors on cancer therapy using pharmaceuticals. And what is the response you are receiving to that?
Phew, that's really dependent by doctor, let alone country. That's really, really complicated. So specifically right now, I work in cancer medicine, and really specifically, I'm currently working in pancreatic cancer and in acute lymphoblastic leukemia. And so ALL is mainly in children, and so that's a very different audience to talk to, particularly the doctors, because when you think about cancer in children, it's a very different mindset to pancreatic cancer, where many of the patients are at least 65 years old or older. Having said that, the cure rate in ALL in children is about 98%, whereas there is no cure rate in pancreatic cancer, and most patients die inside 4 months. So when I'm educating them and talking about these things, it's always about improving care and what else can they do? You know, what is the next step? Does this new therapy help? If it does, why does it help? And convincing doctors who very much believe in their experience about trying something new and trying something different. And that's a difficult thing to get doctors to do, because they've been working in the area a long time and they believe in what they've experienced over the years. So you really have to earn their trust.
I studied this slightly, and it seems like each country has a different approach to cancer.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the US have the NCCN guidelines, the EU have EMEA guidelines, and then you'll have country guidelines, and then you may even have guidelines by doctors, by groups of doctors. And again, it's driven by their experience. The thing that makes that more complicated is that different ethnic groups will have different responses to therapies due to their genetics, or have different types of the cancer due to their genetics. So it's understandable that these differences exist.
Oh, I can imagine how frustrating that can be. Which of the martial arts do you feel is the most effective?
So it's actually one that I haven't studied. It's Krav Maga, which is used by the Israeli army. I have friends that study it. And I think on a day-to-day basis, if you are on the street and if you were in a difficult situation, I believe that's the most effective in terms of defending yourself and getting out of that situation.
So how do you spell that?
Krav, new word, MAGA, Krav Maga.
I've not heard of that.
And it's crazy.
But you have studied a lot of different type of martial arts.
Yes, I have. So I've studied Jeet Kune Do, which is Bruce Lee's martial arts, which is very much about using your opponent's energy against them, minimal movement, and the idea is to never be hit. That's the idea. On the flip side, I spent a long time studying Muay Thai with the top champions in the world out of Thailand. And that was originally a martial arts for the Thai army, and then became a sport. And that's pretty brutal. That whole philosophy is to be hit and keep coming. And it was very hard to transition from Jeet Kune Do, where I was trying to never be hit, to a sport which is essentially attrition. Get hit and keep coming. Muay Thai is the basis, or one of the base martial arts for mixed martial arts that you see in UFC and things like that. It's one of the base ones they use, because it is very effective and it has one of the most powerful kicks in martial arts.
Have you reached top levels in all of them?
No. So Jeet Kune Do is, I think, top level is a difficult thing. I got pretty far, and I was, trying out for the fight teams and everything in Singapore. But I think in martial arts, a good martial artist will tell you never stop learning. And to be arrogant enough to think you're top level means that you're not, because there's always something new to learn. And you experience that when you get your butt handed to you in the ring by somebody because you've underestimated them. So
kind of like life then, huh?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, and you have honors degree in marine biology. In which way has this subject helped you in your lifetime?
So yeah, I grew up watching David Attenborough. I was fascinated with those BBC wildlife shows, and that's really where what I wanted to do. But all the good jobs go to Australians or Americans, so I knew I had to switch to a different PhD. Honestly, these days it tends to be more for my recreation, so diving, snorkeling, and that kind of thing when I go on vacation. Recently, a year or so ago, I was in the Philippines, diving with turtles, that kind of thing. And so that's kind of what I do with it now. And of course, it's also part of the inspiration for my book, Children of the Fifth Son, which has a very strong marine element to it.
What part of the Philippines?
I was in the middle. So I was in Cocoa Grove. You have the Philippines, which is like a big stretch that goes down, and also if you go to Manila, and then it was a boat ride and a car ride through a few islands, so kind of smack in the middle of the Filipino islands.
We lived in Palawan and also Manila area.
Really?
So,
Lived in Manila?
I
Wow.
love
I'm so brave.
my heart's still partially there.
Yeah, I bet.
What inspired you to write this novella series that now has become a book?
Honestly, it came from a lot of reading nonfiction books. So I was really into reading a guy called Graham Hancock and another gentleman called Robert Raval. And they were exploring the possibility that our history isn't what we think it is. And there are many things that just don't fit with what archaeologists say happened. And they can't always explain these things. So I was kind of reading this over a period of 20 years, really kind of absorbing all of the information. And the more I delved into the subject, the more I kind of thought, well, if this piece adds to that piece, then you put those two things together, then maybe it's this. And so the big theory in the book, but from these guys also, and in my book, is that around 15,000 years ago, there was a flood. And this is, archaeologists really believe this happened. But if you go to the continents and the tribes from all around the world, there's one myth that says after the flood came a race of knowledge bringers, and they gave humanity math and science and civility. And then from that point, we were suddenly able to build things like the pyramids and in Egypt and in South America and Babylonia. And when you look at the translations, they always describe these guys the same way. They say that they are pale, they came from the sea, and they had beards. The problem is, and the thing I looked at when I was researching, is that that's a translation of a translation. And when you look at the pictorial drawings of these knowledge bringers, they're almost never human. And for instance, the term beard was probably used by the conquistadors, and it actually meant feathered, because Quetzalcoatl was described as a serpent with plumes of feathers. So I've surmised, and for the purposes of the book, well, what if this race wasn't human? What if it was amphibian, something that evolved alongside humans? And that's kind of where the premise of the book came from.
It's interesting. In what ways have your many experiences and aptitudes aided to your writing of this novel?
For me, traveling has really helped. So to be able to go and experience other cultures. So Asia plays a big part in the book. And they're not the bad guys. What I've been careful of is to try and show that the bad is a point of view. And so the points of view in this book are from the different nations, the US, Russia, and Asia, and what they believe should happen with the information that they have. So for me, traveling really helped. Being in Asia really helped me write that part, and understanding the culture and the people really helped to write the book.
Okay, and it's rumored that you have film option on your book. Tell us about that.
So yes, that's true. We have had some interested parties. A couple of director producers have shown interest, as well as a guy who's very well known for set direction and that kind of thing. And we have some contacts who may be able to find us the funding. So at the moment, the Vesuvian Entertainment has taken the option, so that we're now trying to put it into development. It would be fantastic if that happened. But given all of the locations in my book across the world and the need for CGI, that would not be a cheap movie. So I hope someone has deep pockets.
Well, it sounds exciting. I hope it works out.
Yeah, me too.
Is this going to be one of series, or are you going to start a different direction? What is your next big project?
So yes, there's two parts to that. So yes, this is part of a series. I'm now literally finishing the first draft of book 2, Children of the Fifth Son Echelon. And then there is a third one, Children of the Fifth Son Rubicon, which will come later. So at the moment, I'm just writing those. But in terms of my next big project, I actually have finished a book already that comes out next year, written with a friend of mine called Stu Jones. And he is a SWAT sniper based in Alabama. We met through Goodreads a few years ago, really good friend of mine. And we've just finished a new futuristic thriller called It Takes Death to Reach a Star. And the arcs are going to the Frankfurt Book Festival in October. And I will be there to talk about it. And I'm super excited about this book because it's already getting a lot of good reviews from top people who've seen the drafts.
Wow, it sounds like you've got a lot of exciting things coming.
Yes, there's only half of them, but yes, very busy.
I appreciate your time, Gareth. And is there a final word you'd like to say before we sign off?
Only that the book comes out on the 25th of July, so you can check out the sneak peek of 9 chapters for free if you don't want to buy first. But I hope you like it, and buy it.
Thank you. And signing off now, this is Luann from Rockin Book Reviews, and we hope that you will explore the universe through reading. Goodbye.